The profile will be on Manuel Francisco dos Santos.
Who's that, Marcus?
Well, James, I'm glad you
Who
asked.
the shitting hell is that?
Don't cheapen it. We all know this man by the name of Garrincha.
Of course. Little bird.
Gordon Bennett.
Angel with bent legs.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, many call this man the greatest player in the history of Brazilian football. I've said it.
Yeah.
Well, they've said it.
Yeah.
I've reported it.
Don't shoot a messenger.
Put your guns down. It's true, though. A lot of people do say that. Especially in Brazil, James. Go
And
there.
they should know.
He's seen as much more of a man of the people than Pele,
One could argue.
which he'll probably come on to.
One may argue. In a brief moment. Garrincha means wren. Which is, of course, the little bird, like you said, and the angel with bent legs.
He had loads of nicknames, didn't he?
He did have
most Brazilian players, like, their name is a nickname, isn't it? But he had loads on top of that itself.
No, you're absolutely right. It's remarkable, really, that he could play football well, let alone
At all.
being at the point of being one of the best. Well, certainly one of the best dribblers in the history of the game, because his right leg pointed inwards, his left leg curved outwards, and one leg was 6 centimetres shorter than the other. It is incredible.
And back then, it was a real sort of
Problem, yeah.
It was a real problem, and you'd genuinely be ostracised by your community with things like that.
Yeah.
Even in England, it would be the exact same case.
Well, there's one video I've seen. I don't know if you guys have seen it, where he focuses on his legs and he's just standing on the pitch, and it's like flipping heck. Like it really is noticeable.
when he runs, you don't notice as much, but when he stands still,
that's right.
There's a definite
Camber. There's a camber.
There is a camber.
Well, Mel Hopkins, who played left back for Wales in the World Cup '58 quarter final, he said when you stood and he faced you, his legs went one way and then his body went the other.
Yeah.
And he said, "There's no doubt about it. He would have been declared a cripple, but my God, he could play."
Yeah.
And flipping heck. I mean, he was dealt a bad hand. He was born into poverty. His father was an alcoholic who died as a result of this. And when he was a youngster, to get home from where he used to go to play football, he would have to get like a 2.5-hour train journey and walk 3 miles, often in darkness, back to his house. You know,
That's crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely remarkable, really. And I love this. The guy who wrote his biography, Rui Castro, described him as the most amateur footballer professional football ever produced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not the nicest quote in the world.
I know, but it was so unorthodox. In the same way that people describe Messi as the ultimate street player. I think that's kind of what he's suggesting there.
Yeah.
Because wasn't it the case that Garrincha wasn't actually that bothered by football when he was young?
Yeah, that's right.
Which seems nuts. It seems like this great escape for him.
So he's
But
like
he was
Mido
just very
in a way.
casual towards it.
Yeah, that's right. No, he was bothered in the sense of playing, hence the long journey. But with
But I mean, in
regards
terms
to
of making a career out of it.
exactly,
That's right,
which obviously influenced his playing style. You know.
Because he just loved to dribble. He didn't really care about passing or score. He just loved to dribble, didn't he?
Like to take the piss.
Yeah,
as well.
he did.
Very much.
He
so.
loved a fake from the videos that I've seen.
Flipping heck.
Forgive me if you're going to come on to this in a minute, but there's footage of him just beating about 4 players.
Yeah.
And all he likes to do is dribble. So he runs round the keeper, just runs into the net with the ball, flicks the ball up, puts it under his arm, and just runs back and puts it on the centre spot. Just right, let's carry on.
Yeah, that's it.
He doesn't care
It's
about
like scoring a try.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He always just sort of shouts to the bloke with the scoreboard. Don't
worry
worry.
about it. Yeah.
Didn't I read once that he basically tied a player in knots? Not literally. That would be horrific.
He literally tied him in knots.
And he just stood there like hell lads Jew, just shouting at him. No, he basically, the defender didn't know what the hell to do, just fell over. Garrincha took the ball past him, came back, helped him up again, then ran off down the wing.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing he would do. He was told at a very young age by the doctor that he couldn't play football because of his the state.
Have you seen me? I can.
Yeah, that's right.
I've just have been.
But
Pretty good.
yeah. Well, a number of teams rejected him due to his odd physique, but Botafogo signed him up in 1953.
Sounds like they didn't even bother to watch him play.
Yeah.
And he spent the majority of his career there. Scored a hat-trick on his debut.
Yeah, he played loads, absolutely
Jermaine
loads.
Pennant-esque.
That's right.
Yeah.
He made the right wing really his own position for Botafogo and the Brazilian national side. Absolutely.
You only
loved.
want one player there.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Not in those days.
Yeah.
He's-
Not in the days of 2-3. 12.
7.
Somebody's been reading up. 2, 3, 12.
He was absolutely loved by the people, and many would turn up just to watch him, and he got more nicknames, as you said, James. The Chaplain of Football and the Joy of the People, possibly my favourite one.
The Joy of the People. I mean, if you got that as a nickname, you're happy with that.
Yeah.
I think it's only a matter of time before I get the Joy of the Ramble. But the Joy of the People would be very
The joystick of the Ramble.
He made his debut for Brazil in 1955 at the age of 18, and was a big part of the 58 winning side in Sweden World Cup, with Pelé, of course. And this was a huge win for Brazil. They weren't the dominant force that we've come to know them.
No, they weren't.
There was obviously they'd been beaten by Uruguay at the final hurdle in the 1950 World Cup, and the scars really did run deep. They were hurting.
Yeah.
They went to those finals with a psychologist because of it. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, him and Pelé and others were all about getting the Brazil back on the map, footballing.
Brazil never lost when Pelé and Garrincha played together either.
Correct, yeah.
And that's a lot of games as well. It's not just like a couple, it's like 50 odd, I think.
49, because I think he only lost one in his career.
Oh, did he? Okay.
For Brazil. Well, I don't know if they played together 49 times, but it was a good number.
Yeah.
It was an incredible record. And as you say, in 1962, some of that footage of him taking the piss is just wonderful. Yeah. He just slows the game down to whatever he wants. It's almost like a BBC journalist once described him as having a reckless disregard for the end product. Yeah. He just sort of dribbled, go on then, tell you.
But the thing, he would slow it down to literally to a walking pace.
Yeah.
There'd be times where he'd be walking around with the ball, the defender sort of frightened to make a move because he knew he'd just get done.
The defenders probably thought, breather, here he goes again.
In his head, the defender's thinking, if I stay here, we won't get the ball, but at the same time I won't be embarrassed. So I'm staying.
Yeah.
He was good on free kicks, wasn't he? He was notable. Didn't he invent the banana shot, so to speak?
A lot of people, he was one of the first ones who liked to whip it. In the 62 World Cup, Pelé got injured early on, so everybody was looking at Garrincha to take the team to glory, and he didn't disappoint. Joint top scorer and player of the tournament in their World Cup win there. Throughout the 50s and 60s, many of Europe's big clubs tried to sign him. But after the 66 World Cup, where Brazil were just a shadow of previous teams, it all...
You're only ever going to be one win in that tournament. Yeah.
Thank you, James.
West Ham.
Unfortunately, his partying and drinking really caught up with him with a vengeance, quite sadly, and there was a lot of scandal surrounding him. He was in the papers for all the wrong reasons. He was an alcoholic and a womanizer, and people say, he made George Best's life look tame. I mean, it really was a sad story the way it all ended. He spiraled out of control, and he was suffering from cirrhosis when he died in the hospital, only at the age of 49.
Emulating his father, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I mean, even on his deathbed, he was said to be still a big drinker.
I thought you were going to say a bit of a player.
Well, I'm sure he's
still taking the piss.
I'm sure he was. I mean, he played nearly 600 games for Botafogo and scored over 230 goals for them, which is a great record for a winger.
For a wide player, yeah, absolutely. Well, he's more of a... But the thing is, back in the formations, was he's probably more of a forward.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not taking anything away from him, but he was more than just an out-and-out winger, wasn't he?
Yeah. But he really did help to start the thinking process of what people think of Brazil now. Do you know what I mean by that, with regards to football? Yeah. The flair, the joy, the
samba.
The samba, all that kind of stuff. He was one of the first guys who really had such a playing style where people turned up and it was just a joy to see it.
And that's why he was so popular as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
The joy of the people.
There you go.
They say I've read a bit of that Rui Castro book, and I've read the Alex Belos Brazil book as well, and they said that Pelé seemed to be someone who always sort of had a plan, who was always marketed to death, who knew what he was going to do after he left football, and he wasn't. But Garrincha was someone that the Brazilian people could really see themselves emulating. If he can do it, we can all do it.
That's right.
And he was on a level with them, and I think he was also throughout his life very approachable and seemed to be, from what I can make out, he would be drinking in the same bars that he always was, and very much keeping his friends the same as he always had done. You know.
No, totally. There was apparently back in the day when he would dribble around opponents time and time again. It's been said, how true this is, it's believable that the fans would shout "Ole" every time he did it, and apparently that's where it started.
Great stuff.
I'd like to believe that.
Yeah, I hope so. It's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah. Absolutely. And also in the Maracanã, the famous stadium in Rio, apparently the away changing room is known as Pele, whereas the home dressing room is known as Garrincha.
Nice.
Not bad at all. And Eduardo Galeano...
My bathroom's called Jim.
Your toilet's called James.
No need.
Eduardo Galeano, the South American writer, said that when he was on form, the pitch became a circus, the ball became an obedient animal, and the game became an invitation to party.
Oh,
Great quote.
A lot of big
That's the best
concepts
one
in
we've
there.
had.
Marvellous.